This is Tiffany Rosier, the host of the Afros and Knives podcast. We use the Anchor podcasting app to create and distribute the show. Creating a podcast on Anchor is effortless. It allows you to record a high-quality podcast and distribute it everywhere, including Google Podcast and Apple Podcast. They distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. No fancy equipment or podcasting experience is necessary, and it's 100% free. As long as you have a story to tell, Anchor is the platform to use. Share your story through audio using the Anchor app for Android, iPhone, or your desktop. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Mahatma Gandhi said, "Be the change that you wish to see in the world." Today's Afros and Knives podcast guests are excellent examples of this idea. Welcome to episode 6. I am your host, Chef Tiffany. This week's conversation is with chef and owner of Evelyn's Food Love in Chicago, Evelyn Shelton, and founder of Black Food and Beverage, Angela Burke. We talk about the importance of ownership and community and how sometimes we have to be the creators of the solutions to the problems that we see.
My name is Angela Burke, and I'm the creator of Black Food and Beverage. It's a site that tells the stories of Black folks in the food and beverage industry. Prior to creating that site, I was and am a food marketer. So I've spent about 15 years or so working with different food brands, restaurants, chefs, things like that, helping them with their marketing and PR. But I'm transitioning now. I'm kind of at an interesting point in my life where I'm shifting more into the storytelling side of it. So basically more of what I'm doing at Black Food and Beverage.
And I am Chef Evelyn Shelton. I own Evelyn's Food Love Cafe in Chicago. It is a cozy little cafe on the south side of the city where we have a changing menu. I've been in culinary for a really long time, so I don't even know the exact number of years anymore, because even when I worked in corporate America, I also cooked and did some catering and personal chefing on the side. So it's been a lot of years. But it's been about 10 or 12 years since I finished culinary school and left corporate America altogether. Went to culinary school, worked in several culinary positions, including chef trainer, chef manager. I worked as an executive chef with the Morrison division of Compass Group. Compass is the largest food service management company in the world, and eventually became a food service director. So I had the culinary piece of it, front of the house and the back of the house. Always wanted to open a restaurant. I thought it would be something a little different than what I actually opened. But I did get it open, and we've been open about 2 years, a little bit over 2 years now, and doing pretty well. So we're located on 55th and State Street in Chicago, but we also have a presence inside of McCormick Place, which is the largest convention center in North America, and we're hoping to expand even more this year.
How did the relationship between the two of you develop? Like, how did you cross paths, and what kind of work have you done together? Can you speak a little bit about where your relationship will likely go in the future?
Well, it started with Black F&B. So the first round of BFB launched in 2018, the winter of 2018. And at that time, I heard of Evelyn and I was aware of her restaurant and the work she was doing. I believe I first heard of her from Portia's podcast. And
Gotcha.
so, and Hungry Society. And so I was extremely interested in her whole story and just the way her entire strategy for building her restaurant. So I reached out to her, but my email was sent to her junk box, I think. So she didn't even know that I emailed her for the first round. Anyways, we happened to have connected at a different event. And I was able to get her on the second round of Black Food and Beverage, which lucky me. So we had just a wonderful conversation. That was probably, geez, when was that? Earlier this year? My dates are all off, but probably in the winter of this year that I did the interview with her. And when you sit down and talk with Evelyn, you really just, one, you feel like you're instantly at ease because she's such a genuine person. But two, you want to take notes basically because she's just full of so much wisdom about the industry and she's a veteran. So she's just seen it all, done it all. So it's just very interesting to speak with her. So moving forward, I mean, I just want to be Evelyn's friend. She's amazing. Yeah, who knows what the future holds? But she's just doing outstanding things, and she's just one of those people you have to support. You feel like you have to just support everything she's doing.
I hear that. And chef, like, what was your? Because I mean, if that message fell into your spam, how did you root through that and eventually discover that someone was that they were reaching out to you to be part of the class of the 2018 class for Black F&B?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to that original message because I'm actually pretty well known for being very, very responsive. You know, whether someone emails me, calls me, writes to me, people reach out to me all the time, and I have to find some time, out of my schedule, to reach back, So I think we finally connected at a different event. Most of the people who Angela interviewed for her event were speaking on a panel that I was also speaking at, actually at the culinary school where I graduated, and that was during Black History Month. And she was so gracious and awesome and amazing. When you meet Angela, I feel exactly the same way. When you meet her, you just fall in love with her immediately. She's got this big, bright smile that just lights up the room. And she went down the line, shaking everybody's hand. And I think we must have spoken after that. And then I went and, tried to, find the email that she had sent to me. And I was like, listen, don't even use that email. Here's my personal email. Reach out to me anytime you want. And she did, and we eventually connected. She came over to the restaurant, and she was just a ball of energy. When I first met her, she was a ball of energy, and she was about to give birth, probably like within a month, I think, Angela, right?
Yeah,
and she was
a
just
couple of weeks away. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she was just she was just bouncing all over the place. Yeah, and
yes. Around.
and then yeah, and so when she came over to the restaurant, it had been a long day. We were closing at one of our busier days, which was on a Sunday, I believe. And so we were closing up, just as she was coming in, and she was just, don't mind me, and she was just all over the place, taking pictures, looking, observing, and just being Angela, which is just, she's just an awesome human being. So who I, absolutely love and adore, and we are probably going to collaborate on some things in the future.
And one thing that really stuck out to me is the idea that you chose to not only open your restaurant in an underserved neighborhood, but you own the building. Like
Right.
you own the space. And why was that important to you? Because I talk to people a lot, especially entrepreneurs and people who work in food, that at some point as your business grows, ownership is everything. Like, you know, most people learn eventually like McDonald's is a game of real estate, not necessarily a game of food. And so
Right.
ownership is just as important as what you're doing out of this space. And so in order to keep gentrification at a pace that is doable for the neighborhood, and to allow other Black owned businesses to kind of take notice and go, okay, we can kind of all own, you know, own the block, so to speak. So why was it so important for you to own the space that the restaurant's in?
Well, it was important for a couple of reasons, but I think, well, because, real estate is also an investment, so, and I think, when you first start to consider going into business for yourself, people always tell you to kind of try to minimize your risk. So for me, owning the space was a means by which I could potentially minimize my risk, because we know that the restaurant business can be pretty risky.
Right.
So it's risky in and of itself,
Right.
And now, so then I make it, doubly risky by going into an underserved community, because, just being risky isn't enough for me. It's got to be riskier.
Yeah.
So, right, my thinking was, if things don't work out exactly the way I plan, then at least I have, this building that I can sell and recoup most of, if not all of, and maybe even some profit, of my initial investment. So, when you're making that type of, capital investment, because restaurants eat money, people eat food, restaurants eat money.
Absolutely.
And I tell people that all the time, so you have to be really, really careful, if you're going to invest, $250,000, into something, and it doesn't work out. You want to make sure that you have something that you can, walk away with. You don't want to just walk away from your investment if it doesn't go the way you plan. You want to walk away with something. And so this was my way of kind of ensuring that, that would happen. So because even though it's an underserved community, it is also a developing community.
Right.
So hopefully this will have been, a really smart idea at the end of the day. So, that's left to be seen. I didn't still question myself, like, this was either really smart or really stupid. I'm not sure which one, but we will see. So,
right.
So that's why.
Okay, I made a couple of my conversations so far with other women have definitely come into this particular talking point, and it's really about how do we assist and support each other. It's just this interesting phenomenon for me to watch the Black community kind of invest their dollars into other neighborhoods and other communities so quickly. And then when it comes to their own neighborhoods and their own communities, there is a tremendous amount of skepticism, and there's like a lack of trust. And you have to really put down roots in a neighborhood for them to like trust that you're going to be there and that you're not going to abandon ship. And then they kind of start to and put their dollars there, because you'll get people from outside of the neighborhood coming into a store, into a restaurant, before you get the ones in that neighborhood to do it. And so the question I've been asking is, and this is for both of you, is what needs to change? What part of the conversation needs to change within the African American community at large to get us to trust each other more when it comes to the spaces of like business and entrepreneurship and commerce and enterprise?
Angela, you want to take that?
Ooh, well, I'll start off by saying that I think we need to be in, both of those spaces. We do need to be in our communities. We also need to be outside of our communities. It's very important as well. One of our first interviews was with Eldridge Williams of the Delta, and his restaurant is located north, and it's in Wicker Park. It's a very, very up and coming type of neighborhood, a lot of hipsters, if you will. But there are a lot of different restaurants, some really big name chefs that have a presence there. And he's one of the few Black owners in that neighborhood. And it's just important for folks to realize that, hey, we're here too. We're here, we're there, we're everywhere, we're in both places. So I think there's value from both sides. But you're absolutely right. We 100% have to support our communities first. And, even if you do have a restaurant outside of our neighborhoods, just make sure you're reaching back for your employees, reaching back to mentor up and coming chefs, children. There's so many ways that you can still be connected with our community, even if your physical building isn't there. So I just think that it's important to really know what your intention is with the business that you create and make sure that you're including community in that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree with Angela that it's okay to have a presence in both spaces, but I am also from a generation where when I was a kid, everything in our neighborhood was Black owned. So so in Chicago, in and of itself, is a very segregated city, but, segregation, in the 60s and the 70s was very advantageous to us. It forced us, to own the corner store. It forced us to own, the restaurant, the meat market, the grocery store, the shoe shop, the record shop. It forced, a kind of entrepreneurial spirit that we've since gotten away from. So it's important to me, and it was important to me when I opened in that particular community because Chicago, has taken some hits, in the media, regarding, crime and violence and, you can't go to the South Side, you can't do this. I live on the South Side. I was born and raised on the South Side, and I don't, see Chicago through, that kind of lens. Because I'm not afraid to live in my community. I'm not afraid to work in my community. I'm not afraid to hire, within my community. And so this is just one way of saying to other entrepreneurs, as well, you can open in an underserved community, and still have some measure of success. And help grow and develop, these communities economically.
Absolutely. It's interesting that, because both are definitely important. Occupation in both spaces is definitely important because people don't understand that diversity doesn't equal inclusion all the time. And so you have to build a space and include yourself a lot of the time. And, in these conversations around like food, we've definitely been talking about, the presence of African Americans in fine dining. And specifically, it's always an area that's interesting to me because there's such a dominant voice in that particular type of restaurant with that particular type of cuisine. And our voices are just tend not to be heard because of the fact that they don't associate African-American cuisine and African cuisine with fine dining, with elevated dining. And I loved how you phrased your, the description that is the way it's phrased for your food is that it's elevated comfort food. Because I think all cuisine can be elevated to a place of fine dining. It's not so much that the cuisine isn't there. I think it's how we are framing, what we do as Black people in the kitchen. Some of it is from, how we self-market, and other times it's how, the world, the world perceives what we do. And, I know as a chef, I've always been kind of pigeonholed into that kind of, so you do like soul food or Southern cooking, or, it's never, the assumption is never to the, to anything else. And so, I know when you start to kind of get into these conversations about making sure that we exist in both spaces, a lot of it is, okay, what are your diners going to eat? It's not so much even, okay, what color is the chef? It's just what's going to be accepted into a specific neighborhood. So I know, like, there are black chefs who are opening restaurants in kind of non black and brown neighborhoods, and they tend to find that their successes are bigger when they essentially succumb to kind of like this idea of serving Southern food, because it's the thing that people relate most with them. So for me, like as a chef who's been working so long in this industry, I know you only serve this particular type of meal on Sundays. And, and I know people have probably asked like, why? And can we get this more
Mm-hmm.
frequently? And outside of it being labor intensive, what was your thinking behind that? Was it a way for you to kind of um, help people rethink how, what cuisine Black people serve in restaurants that are helmed by them? Or was it just more about, because of the neighborhood you're in, introducing people to new food and different types of product and menus and recipes?
Well, a little bit of both, I guess. And yeah, if you're Black and you're a chef, people automatically assume that you're doing soul food, or so. And I didn't want to get into that, because they never assume that when you go to one of the top culinary schools in the country, that you learn the same lessons that everybody else in that
Right,
school
right.
is.
You're like,
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm
you know.
classically French trained. I went to culinary school. I mean, what do you want me to do?
Exactly, exactly. So, and the French eat fried chicken too.
Yes.
So yeah, if you do Southern kind of cooking the right way, it is extremely labor intensive. So and I think you would have to have a pretty big operation in order to pull it off and pull it off correctly on a
Yeah,
regular basis.
definitely.
So, which is what I try to convey to people. And yeah, they every single day they call and say, "You got some macaroni and cheese? You got some greens? Nope, we only have it on
Okay.
Sunday." Well, why do you only do it on Sunday? Because we do it right, So, and we want to continue to do it right. And a lot of the restaurants that call themselves or consider themselves, soul food restaurants, I think about, the third or fourth week that they open, they realize, okay, this is a lot of work. So now we have to take a few shortcuts in order to pull it off. We don't do that. We don't take shortcuts. We pull it off every single Sunday, and we do it flawlessly because we've assigned that day to that, to invest that type of labor in,
Yeah.
because we know, what's required in order to, fill those 50 pounds of sweet potatoes and, clean those, 30 pounds of greens every
Right.
single week.
I'm like,
So
your prep list looks real different on Saturday nights than it probably does the rest of the week. You're just like, y'all,
exactly,
yeah, the mise en place
exactly,
is really different right now. So,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Oh wow. Now,
So
so for your cooks that are on the line, your chefs that are in your brigade, what does that staff look like, and how are you like choosing and hiring for talent in your kitchen right now?
we're pretty flexible. I have a chef manager, who is classically trained, and she kind of oversees the cooks in the kitchen. And so we've had all manner, of cooks and levels of experience in our kitchen, because we also work, with programs, culinary, training programs through, for example, agencies, social service agencies that have, maybe a 14 or 16-week culinary program, and they need somewhere to place their interns. So, we bring those interns in, and we're happy to work with them, and we're happy to teach and train. And, if we teach them, well enough, then we get to hire them directly into the kitchen. So, and I've done that on many occasions. So we hire people who are, experienced culinarians, but you don't have to be. So if you are just, passionate about this industry, and that shines through. People who are passionate about, food service are, a little less of center, and that shines through brightly. as opposed to somebody who's just looking for a job, so, and so, yeah, so we're open to bringing people in, until very recently, my lead cook was somebody who I hired, directly out of high school.
Oh, wow.
She had been in a culinary training program since she was in 8th grade, and actually met her by judging a food competition that she took home the gold in 2 years in a row.
Wow.
So and I told her, so when you graduate from school, if you're looking for something, give me a call. And she did immediately, and brought her in, taught her some stuff. She was able to, open the kitchen, close the kitchen, and do every single job, within the kitchen within 1 year of working with us. So, but fortunately for her, she's gone on to a bigger position, which is our goal. It's like we want to bring you in, want to teach you, want to train you, we want to see you move up, and then start hiring people yourself. So that plan worked out swimmingly. And so now I have, staff who, we've hired out of some of these culinary training programs who are doing very well, and we have a bunch of interns in our restaurant through the city's summer job program. So they're learning some basic, culinary skills and training, and they're doing very well.
I love it. I mean, people don't understand how important those programs are for cultivating all levels of culinary talent, and especially in underserved neighborhoods where kids just don't see that level of representation. It's kind of like, well, it's important that, you go in there and you make sure that you tell them what they're doing is important and necessary. Because when, these restaurants, a lot of the restaurants that are essentially the like Pantheon restaurants in this country at this point, those things are kind of just passed down to the next sous chef and to the next line cook, and it's you keep a line of talent running through these restaurants. I think that's just definitely part of the routine that Black-owned businesses need to get into in general, is like thinking generationally. So it's just incredible work. Miss Angela, my question to you is, what is your process for cultivating the list? How did you go about that first class of people? And, was it just, what was coming to you and what was available? Or was it something that you were like procuring very carefully? And, when you got into round 2, like, how did that process change or grow?
Yeah, well, I had the idea for BFB in my head for a good year plus before I actually made any moves on it. So when I had a feeling this is something that I wanted to actually do, I just started paying attention more to folks and building my spreadsheet. I'm definitely a spreadsheet kind of person. So just starting with the spreadsheet, plugging in articles, plugging in names, things like that. So the first iteration of it, I collaborated with Alicia Summers. And so, together we basically decided who we would choose from that spreadsheet. And the second round, maybe one or two of the names from that first round who maybe we couldn't connect with, our emails went into spam or whatever it may be. Only a couple of them bumped to the second iteration of it. Okay. But a lot of those names were just new folks who I came across over the months in between. It had been about a year difference. So the process is very easy. I just reach out to the people I'm interested in reaching out to. It's a one-woman show, so I have a capacity basically where I can interview only so many people in each round, because there's an interview, there's the photo shoot. It all goes hand in hand. Mm-hmm. This second round, I say we, it's me. we covered some folks outside of Chicago, which had been a goal of mine to expand outside of Chicago. And for that, those folks were able to provide photos. So it was phone conversation and they sent me the photos. And then, you go and transcribe your interview, and I just start writing. So I think I have a process, but those types of things change all the time. I'm always looking for ways to improve. This first round, I had no kids. Second round, I had a kid. So I had to adjust with things like that, scheduling my interviews, scheduling a babysitter, all of that stuff comes into the equation. But yeah, it's just really about, I try to connect with people that you may not hear about regularly, and folks whose stories deserve to be told.
Right.
So that's always the goal. And yeah, I just hope to continue doing that for as long as possible.
So how does this work, the work you're doing currently, how does it look different than what you were doing as far as marketing? How did that change? How did that shift or change? Or how did the two of them integrate at this point?
Yeah, well, the transferable skill is the storytelling part, which is a big part of marketing and public relations. And my background is pretty much working with small and mid-sized companies. So, I have a lot of experience with being scrappy, and I really got started during the economic downturn. So it was during a time when restaurants and restaurant groups and private chefs, things like that, these people didn't really have the budget for marketing. So I had to learn how to be scrappy and basically do all of it on my own. I taught myself Illustrator. I taught myself, how to build a website, these types of things. And so when it came to Black Food and Beverage, I pretty much built the site myself, and I already knew how to do a lot of different things. I taught myself photography. Alicia did the photography for the first round. So those were her beautiful images for everyone in that first group. And a lot of folks have used her photos throughout. But, I've been able to shoot food for some clients, and these are just things that I taught myself out of necessities. So when you start a project like this, a passion project, you really do have to pull on those things that you learn yourself, whatever it is you want to. A lot of times you don't have money to dish out to hire a web developer.
So I understand that completely.
You get it. You get it. One on code too. Yeah. So you learn how to do it. You learn along the way, and you make improvements as needed.
Absolutely. I mean, with every idea that comes along, it's funny. My process starts at this point in life. It starts with building a website. Before I got into food, I was in marketing and graphic design for 10 years. And so whenever I have an idea, like the first thing I'll do is build a website around the idea to see if it actually has legs. Like that's my litmus test for it. And so, yeah, I've definitely gotten to that point where it's just like, all right, we're going to do this. So I have to do all of the things. And that's okay, because it's a tremendous skill set to continue to build on. But yeah, I absolutely understand, like, build working a project that you love and that is fills your heart, and so you don't mind putting in the hours to do what's necessary in order to get it to move in the direction in which you want it to go. Now, you mentioned earlier that you've kind of moved or shifted into more of a storytelling space, like that's a bit more of a central component to how you're growing your brand and how you're growing this idea. So was there a specific interview, or did you just notice a trend as you continue to talk to more and more people where you wanted to kind of dip a bit more or deep dive a bit more into storytelling or into the storytelling side of this project?
I think it's just about reflecting on my life, the things that I'm doing, the work that I'm doing every day. And it's about fulfillment. And I really had to take a look at it and see, was I being fulfilled by marketing, by, yes, supporting small businesses, but it's definitely a grind and a hustle to acquire new clients consistently. And, since becoming a mom, priorities have changed, and it's very difficult for me to be able to kind of get out there and be there for clients in a way that they need it. Also, I just really enjoy telling these stories, and more stories need to be told. So I've always been interested in writing. So that's a direction that I'm going in more now. More food writing, more storytelling about just Black folks in food. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's just going to be the food writing or if it will expand into multimedia kind of a thing.
Mm.
But I'm just pretty open right now, and so wherever it takes me.
I love that. I love it. I mean, I've been in food for probably about 17 years now, like actively cooking and not necessarily doing anything else. And in the last couple of years, I've made that same transition myself, where
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten more into food writing and food media. And because I love the storytelling aspect of it, and I've realized like there is a lack of certain stories in these spaces. And so, you start to, I remember loving the Food Network and like the cooking channel and stuff when they first
Mm-hmm.
started, and then realizing as we went along that they became more homogenous, and the stories were almost identical and the recipes were really similar. And so it just made me sad. I was just like, well, if you would venture into some other cultures, you'd probably find some more interesting stories again. And so I've kind of
Yeah.
leaned in quite a bit to that. So I absolutely understand like the draw, because you kind of see you're. I know there's like you see a need to. You're like, I think people who work in marketing in any capacity are problem solvers by nature, and if you love food, you definitely are a problem solver. And so when you see a gap or a hole somewhere, and you're just kind of like that. That's a problem that needs to be solved. I need to like, what can I do to contribute to a solution there? So I definitely
It's
understand that.
true. It's true, and it was very frustrating for me uh, in PR. I'm supporting a small business who that may be located in a neighborhood that's not considered the sparkly, shiny new neighborhood with all the fancy restaurants. Therefore, it's very difficult for me to get coverage for that client. And that's an issue. It shouldn't be that way. We shouldn't be hearing about the same, what, 10 or 12 chefs
Right.
places over and over again. And I just got tired of it. So what do? You just create your own platform. If you're not seeing what you're looking for, you create your own.
Absolutely agree. I think that's where a lot of things have come to in the culture, is that if you don't see it, you do have to now create it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I absolutely understand. Like now I have to go hard, and I'm slightly obsessed with this entire idea. But, it's so necessary. And you can get easily sidetracked too in like dipping your hands in other things. So definitely finding a focus is necessary. So I totally get that, and I appreciate the fact that you just went ahead and just dove head first into the entire process. So, we definitely need platforms and voices like Black food and beverage, because
Well, I only say that to encourage other folks to be the
yes,
same.
exactly,
Because I'm not doing anything that's especially unique. It's something that anyone can do. I use Squarespace to build my site, and I just tell the story. That's it. And anyone can do that. And we need more folks to do that. So if,
yeah.
my site inspires anyone to create their own, other cultures, our culture, whatever, please do it, because we need more of those types of things.
Absolutely. I think volume is everything right now. So it's like the more we
Well,
can
and
get into the market. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think too that Angela does what she does, so uniquely well. She is, so she's just making it seem like anybody can do it, but not anybody can do it. So, first of all, you have to be a very good storyteller,
Right.
and Angela is one of the best storytellers. She should, she writes beautifully. You are drawn in from the first, couple of sentences, and then she takes you somewhere. She takes you on this, this journey, and it just happens to be in a space, for me, that I love. So I love, 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 the first, publication of F&B and Black ethnic food and beverage. And, the second one is like, you get drawn into these stories, but that's because of the storytelling and the storyteller, so she does an amazing job with that. And, and as the, Portia Wilson is, also awesome with storytelling. So we need more of you guys, telling, our stories. We need more of you guys collectively, telling our stories. And then we have to figure out ways to, collaborate so that we create our own Black food network.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's and put information out there that that simply that quite simply isn't. Because I agree with you. I was really wrapped up in the Food Network when they first started. Everything was so different and so unique, and now everything is pretty much a repeat of the last thing.
Yeah.
So and because there's not a lot of cultural expression, so to speak.
Yes.
So, so there's more evolving, that needs to happen, and it actually starts with, with exactly precisely, what you ladies are doing, which brings attention, to the rest of us. So,
absolutely. Well,
thank you both.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you. I mean, on that vein, what is, because I always like to talk about, solutions that are working and things that are out there to be excited about. So this question is for both of you. Like, what have you seen of the industry or within the industry that you are excited about, that you are looking forward to, that you want to see more of outside of us, creating more spaces in media for our voices and our stories? What are you reading right now, and who are you following? What chefs are you excited about? Or, people who are working in food and beverage, like in hospitality, like what are you kind of sinking your teeth into right now?
Angela?
Well, here locally, Chicago Tribune, the food section, their editor is a Black woman, Sade Carpenter. She just led an entire month of food coverage on the South Side, and not just the South Side generally, but Black South Side specifically. And the fact that she did that for such a large publication, that means something. And so for an entire month, they had coverage on Black South Side Chicago. And it was different articles and different aspects of the food scene and the food culture, but very well done. And everyone should really take a look at it.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Okay. I know. I'm like, now I need to, I guess I need to go get online and find me a digital subscription or something.
Yes.
I'm like, oh wow. And how about you, Chef?
I think what excites me about the food industry is, that there are just so many opportunities to do so many different things, within the space. I talked to some friends, who are in the business and who have been in the business for years, and who really struggled when they first started, 10, 15 years ago, and, who are now like, very supportive, very encouraging, always, encouraging us to take advantage of, all of the opportunities that are available today that were not available maybe even, 5, 6, 7 years ago, like the Fudas and, the Uber Eats and, things of that nature, which can bring an additional revenue source, into your business, and keep you afloat. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about something that I learned recently, with Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance company, they have a sector called Blue Cross Blue Shield Institute, which is headed up by an African American doctor, Dr. Trent Haywood. And so they have been exploring and actually launched a pilot program this past February to bring healthier food options to underserved communities.
Oh, that's incredible.
And that's something that is incredible. That's something that you've never heard, of an insurance company doing.
Exactly.
So I'm excited about that and the potential that has, to change the way food is viewed and how we eat, and actually could change health outcomes as well, within our neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It's because there's just so many people who don't. I still talk about food deserts a lot when I'm in discussion with people and the and food inequality and things like that. And most people still are just like, "What are you? Huh?
Yeah.
Really?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't know that, huh? That there isn't a grocery store within 5 miles of someone's home, and there is no fresh produce, and the closest thing to a grocery store is the liquor store on the corner, and like that, people still live like that, and it's still very surprises so many people that still exists. And so yeah, awareness as well as solutions for me are kind of where we're at. And definitely this marriage and trend of tech and food is definitely something exciting to watch. I think we're moving into a space where those two things just pair together all the time.
Yeah.
So, most people are not going to necessarily eat out nearly as much as they used to. And for a number of reasons. I mean, you just see that trend of like dining out, and then people start to kind of go inward again, and then they're back out hitting restaurants really hard. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on who's coming up next, because was it Uber Eats and Postmates and everybody else. It's like, who's the next iteration of a food delivery service, and what will they do and bring to the table? So definitely excited about all of that stuff. Before, I guess, for these final few minutes, because that hour flew by, what can we, and I've asked this of everyone, like, what can we as a community of listeners, how can we support you in what you're doing, and what should we be looking forward to, and where can we put our energy or our dollars or whatever it is in order to see your vision and your purpose kind of explode into a global space and get it in front of people? So I can start with Angela.
Yeah, well, follow us on all of the socials at Black F&B, and be sure to check out our website at blackfmb.com. But also read the stories of the folks that we feature. And once you do that, support their businesses, because that's the second part of it. So if you share their stories, if you follow their website, sign up for their newsletters as well, and then also maybe pop into their restaurants or download their app or whatever it may be, but just find a way to support them.
Yeah, I agree. So check us out on social media, and if you're in Chicago, stop by the restaurant, buy a meal, support a Black business.
Absolutely. What are your hours?
We are open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, from noon until 6 p.m. and Sundays from 11:30 until 5. Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays we're closed to the public because we only do pop-up lunches on those days. And we're actually thinking about extending our hours by the end of the summer, as we're also seeking a liquor license.
Ooh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. And now, how does one participate in a pop-up lunch? Like, is there a sign-up sheet and can be a part of that?
Yeah, so for the most part, they're kind of private, because food partners with these companies to connect them with restaurants and caterers to provide lunches on site at these corporations
Gotcha.
Monday through Friday. But we are in the process of updating our website. And once it's completed, we will put our pop-up schedules online. So if we pop up someplace, like Willis Tower, that's open to the public, then people can, come in and find us there.
All right. Well, perfect. Well, ladies, thank you again for joining me on a call. I appreciate all the information and the inspiration. And ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the instructions. Now go do it. Follow the people. Get on the social media. Do all the things to support these ladies. Because if we don't support them, for me at this point, who will? Like, we are responsible to and for our community and for the people who are doing the work to make sure that our stories are being told and being heard. So thank you again.
Amen.
And absolutely, I'll make sure we get all of this information on the website. So definitely, if you need to know where to go find them, you can either listen to the podcast a second time and write it down, or you can go to the website and find it there. So, but yes, thank you so much. And you ladies enjoy the rest of your night. And we will definitely be catching up with you all very soon. I definitely plan on doing kind of a catch-up episode where we kind of talk about where everybody is since our first conversation. So I look forward to seeing how things grow in the coming year. So thank you again. Thank you for listening in on this week's conversation with Chef Evelyn Shelton and Angela Burke. I'm excited that you have joined our community of thoughtful, ambitious, and informed listeners. I love to share the stories and experiences of inspiring and passionate people. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your feedback. Listen to the Afros and Knives podcast on iTunes, Anchor, Google Podcast, and Spotify. New episodes are available every Tuesday. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you again for listening, and we'll talk again next week.